San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. Kay laki ng iyong ginampanan sa kwento ng ating kaligtasan, ngunit buhay niya'y nanatili sa karimlan at kababaan. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. O San Jose. O San Jose. Sa malawak na plano ng Diyos, Kanyang pinilit, hinirang na lubos, busilak na puso, Kanyang pinagpala upang maging Ama ng Mesiyas. San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. O San Jose. O San Jose. Sa malawak na plano ng Diyos, Kanyang pinilit, hinirang na lubos, usilak na puso, Kanyang pinagpala, upang maging ama ng Mesiya. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. Kay laki ng iyong ginampanan sa kwento ng ating kaligtasan, ngunit buhay niya'y nanatili sa karimlan at kababaan. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, gabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kaligtasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pag-ibig, Ama, O San Jose.
gentlemen, to all fathers, daddies, tatays, itay, ama, and to all father figures who are joining us virtually via Facebook Live. Happy Father's Day and welcome to day 2 of our 3-day celebration of the Father's Day, brought to you by the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines through the Episcopal Commission on Family and Life, headed by His Excellency Most Reverend Gilbert Agarcera DD, with the theme, Forming Fathers in the Image of Saint Joseph, a vocation to love, a tribute to all fathers. Yesterday, we heard the insights of our beloved Bishop on fatherhood as a vocation formed in the image of Saint Joseph. He used as reference Patriarch, the recent apostolic letter written by Pope Francis in the year of Saint Joseph. Today, we are going to hear testimonies and reflections from different lay fathers and the deacon. To begin with, let us hear the sharing of an addictions counselor from the Nazareth Formation House. He is from Lipa City, Mr. Jose Antonio Manyosa, with the theme, Climbing Out of Addiction.
Good day to you all and happy Father's Day as well. My name is Antonio Manyosa and I am the Program Director at the Nazareth Formation House in the Philippines. We are a residential substance abuse rehabilitation center that also focuses on behavioral addictions. I've been Program Director here for the last 10 years. I am also a recovering substance abuser as well. I've been in recovery for the last 16 years. I have 2 children. I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, and I'm also very happily married. I'd like to talk to you today about my recovery and my journey through addiction. It was a quite tumultuous journey and very difficult, when it came to really trying to get sober. I started early on at the age of 11. I started experimenting with alcohol and cigarettes, and then it escalated to hard drugs at the age of 13. I grew up in a household that was fairly, I guess, normal, if you can say that. My father is an architect and my mother is a retired school teacher. But at the time that I was a child and growing up, they spent most of their days away from home because they had to actually go to work and whatnot, and travel. I have 3 siblings. They are all older than I am. So I am the youngest and the bunso, is how we call it here, no? The sibling that's closest to me in age is 8 years apart from me. So basically, I spent most of my life as an only child. I spent it mostly with our household help at home. I did engage in a lot of sports when I was younger, all throughout high school and university. I also did a lot of outdoor activities, but those activities were not enough to keep me away from the lure of substance abuse. As I mentioned earlier, I was growing up alone most of the time. I did have quite a bit of friends, but it just so happened also that some of the friends that I associated with did like to get involved with substances as well. They liked to party as well. So I tended to gravitate towards them because I was basically all alone at home, so I ended up spending more time with my friends. Another thing that happened to me is that between the ages of 3 and 10 years old, I suffered a lot of trauma. I was sexually abused by my household help, and that really left a mark in my life, and I suffered through a lot of PTSD because of that. So coupled with the fact that I was living at home mostly on my own and going through that type of trauma, I ended up trying to self-medicate, and I ended up trying to forget a lot of those years that happened early on in life. So that's why I kind of veered into abusing substances. And mostly the substances that I really chose to abuse the most were, as I mentioned, cigarettes, alcohol, methamphetamine, marijuana, and opioids. Although throughout my life, throughout the time that I was abusing substances, which was about a 17-year period, I really did every substance imaginable, no? It came to the point where I was not only using substances, but I was dealing them as well. I was trafficking also in order to make ends meet. So it became a very, very heavy addiction, one that I could not really find my way out of, or nor did I want to actually. So that's basically what happened for more than half my life, you know. I ended up going into treatment for the first time in 1997, and I went in and out of treatment for about 4 years, from 97 to 2000. Within those 4 years, I went through several rehabilitation centers. He was 4 of them, 4 different centers, and I went through a lot of therapy. Saw psychiatrists, saw psychologists, faith healers, you name it. Any way to try to get some help, I did it. But every time I ended up relapsing and going back into my addiction. So it was a very difficult time in my life. My relationship with my family was very strained. In fact, what ended up happening was they ended up trying to move me to do 2 different nations. I went first to the U.S. to try to finish university there, and that fell apart a few years after. I ended up getting kicked out of school, and eventually my parents decided to bring me back home to the Philippines. Then at the turn of the century, 2000, they decided to move me out again to Australia this time, and my life became very hectic there. Although it started off all right, I was able to attend a good university in Australia, but eventually I ended up getting back into dealing and using substances again. It came to the point where I ended up being homeless in Australia. I was homeless for more than a year, and it was really basically living in the streets, eating off garbage cans, not having a roof over my head, not having any place to stay, and getting involved with gangs and a lot of big problems, no? So at the worst of it, I had to leave Australia because there were too many people that were going after me, trying to get back at me. So I ended up moving back to the Philippines in 2005. That's when I ended up as a resident with Bob Garin and Emmy Garin here at the Nazareth Formation House. And it was only through here that I was able to really change and turn my life around by the grace of God, and because of the Garin's help, I was really able to turn my life around, and I'm so very grateful and thankful for that. They opened up a perception, they opened up a view in my life of what really were the roots of my addiction. And before that, I really didn't understand why I kept on going back to drugs, but it was only through the therapy that I received here with the Garins that I realized that I was really suffering from the trauma that I had gone through when I was a child. And that really helped me out. Because of their therapy, I was able to turn my life around and walk away from the addictions that I suffered from. No? Going back to my family, pretty much all throughout my teens and early 20s. As I said before, our relationships were very strained. I did not get along with my father or my mother, although we did try. My siblings also did make an effort to try to reach out to me, but eventually, I ended up burning a lot of bridges when it came to our relationship with each other. So it took a long time for that to heal. My father was a very difficult person to get along with. Early on in his life, he had gone through some other issues as well. And our getting to be a father and son, to have that bond, it was just not there. Throughout his life, he had gone through a lot of issues with anger as well. And my mother was also emotionally distant, so it was very difficult to form a good bond with them. It was only really through going through therapy here in Nazareth that our relationships really started to heal. Not only did my relationships with my parents get better, but also the relationships I had with my siblings started to work out as well. It was, again, a difficult process. They understood where I was coming from finally, and I also got to understand where they were coming from. And right now, our lines of communication are quite open, and I'm very thankful for that. As a father and as a husband, I really try my best to be the best person I can be. I look at my children, and what I do is I look back at my life and everything that I went through back then. I try not to put them through now. I definitely don't try to let them go through any type of trauma or whatnot. I'm very protective over my children, and I love them dearly. But I also don't spoil them. I know that one of the reasons why I ended up being a person that was suffering from addictions was because I was very self-entitled and very spoiled. I think it was my family trying to cope with having to deal with me, and they tried to really give everything to me with the hopes of me changing. So with my kids, I really try to not spoil them, get them to do their chores, get them to work for the things that they need, work for the things that they want, even at such an early age. And also, I will, when they get old enough, I will definitely tell them about my life and the addiction issues that I had to go through. Definitely that type of education is necessary because, genetically speaking, they have a 50% chance also of getting into addiction because of, what I went through. And I really want to educate them on that, to steer them clear away. And I want to be as transparent as I can with my kids when it comes to this, so that they know where I came from and how they can also stay away from it. Even with simple things now, as with gadgets and computers and television, my wife and I really are very strict with that. We keep them away as much from screen time as possible, and I definitely we both try to engage them in a lot of outdoor activities. And we do make an effort to spend as much time as we can with them. That's one thing that we really try to push for, is having a lot of family time together, doing activities that are mostly outdoors or creative or whatnot, just as long as we get to have a lot of that bonding time with each other. I remember when I was homeless and walking in the streets of Sydney, I thought I'd die by the age of 35. I never imagined that I would have a family or kids. I really thought that my life was just meant to really just end with a drug addiction, no? But thanks to the Garans, and thanks to the treatment I received, and definitely for rediscovering my spirituality, my life turned around, and I got to meet my wife, Alexandra, who is the rock in my life that keeps me steady, and our two children have really been a blessing from God, and I thank God every day for that, and I really am the happiest man I know right now. Coming out of a lifelong struggle with substance abuse is never easy. In fact, a lot of people don't make it. But I'm genuinely blessed. I genuinely feel blessed that I have this opportunity to not only make a difference with people that are also suffering from addictions, but also to really have a second lease on life. And I want to thank you all today for listening to my story. I hope I didn't make it too brief, but I'd just like to wish you all a happy Father's Day, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jose Antonio Manyosa. This time around, we'll be hearing the sharing from 3 different OFW fathers. They are Mr. Wilson Lumbao, an electrical engineer from Saudi, and Mr. Arvin Kabungkal, an OFW from Canada, with the theme OFW Fathers Overcoming Distance.
I am Wilson Lumbao, married to Tess Abalos for 47 years, a father to 3 daughters and 1 son, and a grandfather to 3 boys and 2 girls. I've been an OFW in the Middle East for 29 years. When I left to work abroad in 1987, my children were only 13, 11, 9, and 7 years old. Then, when I went home for good in 2017, they were already 42, 40, 38, and 36 years old. I was already earning an adequate salary as an electrical engineer in Meralco when I decided to work abroad in 1987. Pangunahing dahilan ay kahit na pagkatapos ng 18 taon na pagiging masigasig na nagtatrabaho, wala kaming naipon, at sa halip nawala ang aming bahay, ang aming sasakyan, at may mga utang na bayarin dahil sa aking mga bisyo. Alam kong bilang isang ama, I am the provider for my family. Kaya tinanggap ko ang job offer sa Saudi Arabia kahit alam ko na mahirap para sa akin. My life during the first year living abroad was miserable because I realized na sobrang na-miss ko ang aking asawa at mga anak, which was a big contrast to my taking them for granted when I was still beside them because I was preoccupied with my vices. My only consolation was that I was able to regularly send enough money for their needs and for paying our debts. Somehow, to lessen my homesickness, I joined the choir and the so-called underground church so that I can meet new friends. Unknowingly, I've started to appreciate attending the Holy Mass. Pinagsikapan ko na makakuha ng visa for family status so that my wife and children can travel to Saudi Arabia and stay with me. I was afraid that without my wife and children, I might be tempted to have another family, as what happened to some OFWs. My wife and my two younger kids were able to stay with me after my being alone for 1 year. But my two older daughters were left behind because they were studying in the Philippine Science High School and staying at the school dorm. Kahit papano, napagaan ako ng labis na pag-alala para sa aking pamilya. My only concern was my two daughters who were far away from us, especially when I learned that they felt homesick, lonely, and secure, scared, and sometimes not being able to sleep well at night, in addition to the pressure in their studies to maintain their scholarships. To alleviate their difficulties, I made it a point to call them once a week and regularly write letters to make them feel that they were not alone. There was no cell phone yet during those times, so we called using coin-operated public phone booth. After staying with me for 2 years abroad, my wife and two younger kids had to be back because we decided that they should continue their studies here in our country, where there are good schools. Then for the succeeding 10 years, my wife performed the role of both father and mother to our children, although she had to leave them for 1 month to visit me once a year. I was totally an absent father to them, although I provided for their financial needs. My absence to guide and protect them were my shortcomings. I was not there during important events in my family, like birthdays, graduation, and other school activities, where the presence of both parents was needed. I was not there when my eldest daughter made a promise of single blessedness and stayed in Opus Dei Center while still a college student. I was not there to protect my second daughter from being scammed by a towing truck. I was not there when a wayward van slammed into the gate of our house. I was not there when my son revealed that he got pregnant his girlfriend and needed to arrange for their church wedding. In 2001, when all of our children have already completed their college education and settled in their respective jobs, my wife finally decided to accompany me in living abroad. Nang magkasama na kami, we had the opportunity to join the Couples for Christ. This is a Catholic movement intended for the renewal and strengthening of Christian family life. In the Christian Life program that we attended, I learned about personal renewal and notably the role of a father. I realized that being a good father is not just to provide his family with the material needs, but also spiritual and emotional needs. Because I was away from them, I used to compensate my absence by bringing things as pasalubong, even if they are not really needed. But when I learned about my role as a father, I made sure to communicate with my children regularly, which includes some sharing of God's Word. I made my children aware of our active involvement in church and the Couples for Christ activities in Saudi, where practice of other religion is prohibited. I thought that everything has been going all right with my children. But in 2003, while we were serving as team leader in a Christian life program, we encountered a big problem. Our only son, who was married already and with a 2-year-old child, was into drugs. Nais naming umuwi, ngunit ang aking anak ay nagpasabi na kung umuwi kami, ay hindi na namin siya makikita. Hindi namin alam kung anong gagawin, ngunit hindi kami nawala ng pag-asa. So we resorted into prayers, and thank God, we had a community who were always praying for us. We asked help from our leaders in Manila, and a counselor was referred to our son. Thank God, my son consented to undergo a rehabilitation program in Tagaytay and was able to recover in less than a year. Naniniwala ako na ang kanyang mabilis na recovery ay dahil sa ipinadamang pagmamahal at suporta naming buong pamilya. Kasi nang malaman namin na pwede na siyang dalawin sa rehab center, agad kaming nagbakasyon. The first time na nagkita kami ay lumuhod siya sa harapan ko at humingi ng tawad. Naisip ko tuloy na kung hindi ako nag-abroad, baka hindi siya nagkaroon ng ganong addiction. Sa halip na magalit at sisihin siya, ang nangibabaw sa akin ay pagmamahal at pagpapatawad. I am very thankful to God that my children understood my decision to work abroad, which left them like ulila sa ama for 29 long years. I am happy hearing from them their thoughts and feelings about my being an OFW father. Here are some of what they actually said. Mga sinabi nila, we saw how privileged we were, especially every time our father, who worked in Saudi Arabia, would send us things that most of the kids never had. I did not feel left out or that sana nandito kayo. Maybe the academic requirements in school made me occupied and concentrate in studying. Siguro, kung nahirapan ako, not being with my family could become an issue. You making the big effort to go to Saudi, making that big change not just with yourself, but with your relationship with Mom and God, help a lot. Being an OFW child, I was inspired in my work which involved in creating more jobs in our country that allow more parents to stay with their kids. At ito naman ang sinabi ng aming anak who got into drugs. I saw how my parents took great effort to facilitate my rehab program. They showed strong support in attending reintegration sessions in our family talk, where we can open up regarding our issues. I was also touched how my father opened up to his own setbacks in life. I felt very strongly that healing from any heart will always be possible as long as your family is there to listen. I have become more patient in dealing with adversity and in looking at them in a broader perspective. I am doing now something which I knew I was meant for and love to do. I teach in a university which has also given me stability and a career path to pursue. I have many plans and projects lined up which I am all excited for. and I am beginning to live the life now that I wanted and not afraid to deal with complications that may arise from it. Anyway, I have no regrets, and I hope my family, my sisters, my parents would feel the same because everything happens for a reason as long as we remain and honest with ourselves. Yan po ang mga sinabi nila. And based on my experience, masasabi ko na pwede naman na maging mabuting tatay ang isang OFW. We know that it is a great sacrifice, pero may pagkakataon talaga na hindi maiiwasan dala ng pangangailangan. Kailangan lang may pananalig at pagtitiwala sa Diyos na siyang gabay at sandigan sa pangangalaga ng malayong pamilya. We can overcome any problem or difficulty because we believe that God will not abandon us. And these problems and difficulties can be ways by which we will be formed by the Lord and strengthen our faith and bring us closer to Him. We are blessed that God gave Saint Joseph to us as our model and intercessor in our journey as a father. Thank you, and may God be praised.
A pleasant day to all our brothers and sisters in Christ globally. I'm Arvin Gabungkal, presently resided here in New Brunswick, Canada with my wife, Sila Marie, and two daughters, namely Alia Nicole and Emily Pinis. I would like to share to you my ordeal of being away with the family to work overseas. I started to work as an OFW in the restaurant industry in Saudi Arabia. At that time, since it's my first time considering the country so strict from their culture, where liquor, women, and religion practice are not allowed, I find it already difficult to be away from the family. My motivation only is to work hard and save money. It was those times where there's still no internet and the only means of communication is just through telephone calls and letters. I recall, I only have to limit my call just to let my parents, especially my mother, that I'm doing fine, not to tell them that it's really a sacrifice and hard to work abroad. For me, I'm happy when salary day comes only and you send your hard-earned money to support your family back home. In the Philippines, I struggled to get the same as a restaurant manager position for a year. My credit is piling up and all my savings are gone. I haven't failed to pray and lose hope that I will be getting a job again until I get hired to work abroad, this time in Bahrain, an open city. I'm used to just to go to work and stay in the villa only, but the Lord has opened me a path to join Singers for Christ. With the support of the community, I become closer to God. I thought I will stay long, but it was just only a couple of years and ended going back to the Philippines again. I got a local job but was given a chance to work in Saudi Arabia again. At this time, I am embraced by the CFC Singers for Christ community, having the faith and no fear of serving and praising the Lord even in a restricted country. It was this time the Lord had granted my wish of finding my God's greatest gift in Singers for Christ. My first girlfriend, now my wife. We crossed over to Corpus for Christ and blessed with two daughters. Sadly, we decided to keep them with our mother-in-law in the Philippines as we find it hard to be with them as my wife and I are working in different regions. I have to travel long hours of driving just to meet her, and occasionally once a month. It's heartbreaking to be away from our children, especially if they are still young. Our experiences as a parent have missed a lot of personal birthdays, occasion, recognition, graduation, working as an OFW. A sacrifice, selfless role as a parent to support our loved ones. FB messengers are only communication where we normally talk and pray daily together. We may have seen or hear them in the video, but nothing is best to see, listen, hug, and kiss them personally. We always miss those loving times, hoping and praying that one day God will grant us discernment of our heart to be together as one Kabungkal family. Couples for Christ Global Community has been supported of us through prayers. They have become our second family. Our prayers, teachings, and services in the community have molded us to become stronger as a couple, be used as instrument and inspiration to share God's unconditional love and kindness for our family and others. As a parent, I learned in progress to become a priest, a protector, and a provider. God is so good that He make a way for us, couple, to be together first and be blessed us more to be together as a family when I got a job here in Canada and we become a permanent resident. CFC community prayers and God's faith has been instrumental for us to grant our heart's desire to truly becoming a family. Today, we are together not only as a Kabungkal family, but as one Couples for Christ family, having faith, be a witness, and sharing God's unconditional love for all of us. With this, from my family to everyone, Happy Father's Day. May God be praised.
Thank you very much to our noble OFW fathers. This time around, let us hear the reflection of a deacon from Our Lady of Mercy Parish, Paisan, Batangas. For the Team Fathers educating children towards their vocation, let's give it up for Reverend Michael Sandoval.
A blessed day po. First of all, I would like to thank our beloved Archbishop, Archbishop Gilbert, for giving me this opportunity to share a very significant moment in my life, wherein I really felt God's loving embrace, forgiveness, and vocation. But before I go on, I would like to introduce myself. I am Reverend Michael Ilagan Sandoval from St. Mary of Gracia Parish, Batangas City, and a native of Mabini, Batangas. I was ordained deacon last 15 February 2021, and I am currently assigned in Our Lady of Mercy Parish, Taysan, Batangas. Masasabi ko na ang kwento ng bokasyon sa pagpapari ay kakaiba dahil sa ginamit niya ang isa sa napakasakit na pangyayari sa aking buhay upang ako'y kanyang tawagin. God used the death of my father for me to realize that He is calling me. My father, the late Roel Mendoza Sandoval, served as a government official since 1991 to 2008. He became a councilor, municipal mayor, and a vice mayor. He was killed last 26th of August 2008 in front of my mother, Wilma Ilagan Sandoval. I was third year high school then at Santa Teresa College, Bawan, Batangas. Before entering the seminary, honestly, I don't have any intention of becoming a priest. But as I look back and reflect, I realize that there are glimpses that God is calling me. My father was a former driver sacristan of Monsignor Alberto Boongaling, and my mother was a grade school teacher at St. Teresa's Academy, na STC at present. I grew up in an atmosphere close to the church. My grandparents are serving in our parish as a collector and lector. I studied in a Catholic school, Lady Fatima Montessori School, Incorporated Mabini, and Santa Teresa College, Bawan. When I was in high school, I served as a volunteer student catechist and an active member of Youth for Family and Life. I believe that it is by God's grace and providence that I took entrance exam at the St. Francis de Sales Institute of Formation last February 17, 2010, and received the result a month after. On June 6, 2010, I entered the seminary. During my seminary formation years, I am motivated to continue and pursue this vocation, for I can feel that there seems an invisible string line that keeps me pulling. More so, I am very thankful to the priest who guided, accompanied, and served as a father, friend, and brother to me. The year of spiritual and pastoral formation that happened during my formation year 2017 and 2018 as our exposure year, one of the most significant moments in my life happened last October 18, 2017 in the new Bilibid prison, Muntinlupa City. We were 12 seminarians then who are given a chance to talk to the prisoners. To my surprise, by God's grace and will, I was able to encounter a prisoner who knew the murder case of my father. Whenever I recall this experience, my memory is vivid and clear. It was a week-long exposure in prison. Part of my prayer back then is that may the good Lord teach me the true face of forgiveness. During my encounter, hayaan niyo pong ikwento ko. The prisoner approached me first, for he heard that I am from Batangas City and would like to ask me to hand this letter for his family. Dahil hindi na daw po siya nadadalaw, ilang taon na. Kaya nais po niyang ipadala ang sulat sa kanyang pamilya na taga Batangas City din po. Then I introduced myself as simple as ako po si Brother Mikhail Sandoval, taga Batangas City, pero tubong mabini po. At naririto po kami para makapanayam kayong mga naririto sa bilangguan para kay aming maipagdasal. And I asked him, what was the reason why he is staying there? He answered that he was a murderer and a member of a goons. Sinabi niya na marami nang dumanak na dugo sa pamamagitan ng kanyang kamay. Nabanggit din niya na sila ay grupo at marami siyang kaibigan na ganito rin ang gawain. At isa na nga rito ang pumatay sa aking ama na kanyang kaibigan. Paano ko ito nasabi? Tinanong ko, tapos nagtanong siya, do you know, alam mo ba ang kaso dun sa pagkapatay sa dating mayor ng Mabini? Dahil alam niyang ako'y taga Mabini din. I told him, yes. But I am not yet telling him that I am the son. Then he continued the story. He told me everything, from the planning stage, the killing proper, and what happened next. Sabi niya, mas nauna pang ilibing ang pumatay sa aking ama. Dahil sa ito'y nakokonsensya sa kanyang ginawa. At sinabi na hindi kasama sa ibinayad ang mama at ang iba pang nagtatrabaho sa amin nung panahong iyon. During that time, I have mixed feelings and emotions. Pero ako'y nagpapasalamat dahil ang justice ay aming nakamtan sa pamamagitan ng payapang at sa kalooban ng Diyos. At alam na namin kung sinong papatawarin. He mentioned names which I am familiar. He also told me that ang Papa nga lamang ang papatayin. After hearing the whole story, I told him that I am the son of the one he is speaking about. Then I hugged him and thanked him. Walang galit. Ang nasa aking puso ng panahon yun ay ang pag-unawa. Pag-unawa na kung saan, salamat dahil naikwento niya at alam na namin na may hustisya sa Diyos. After it, I asked him to prepare the letter that I will bring to his family na kukunin ko kinabukasan para makapaghanda pa siya. After that encounter, Holy Mass was celebrated. Kinabukasan, I am looking for him but he did not show anymore. Hanggang sa huling araw namin sa Bunting Lupa. Hindi ko alam kung bakit hindi siya nagpakita. Paano ko napatunayan ang kwento niya na totoo? When I told my encounter to my family and my relatives, nagulat ang lahat ng aking mga lolo't lola, aking mga tiyo, tiya, aking ibang kamag-anak, ang lalo't higit ang mama. Bakit ko daw alam ang detalye sa pagkamatay ng Papa? Naroroong hindi naman nila ikinekwento sa amin dahil ayaw nilang magtanim kami ng galit sa mga tao at ayaw nilang mag-isip kami ng kung ano. Ang mahalaga ay kami ay payapa, ang sabi nila. Kaya, nung nagkwento ako, nalaman ng mga tiyo-tiya ko, napayak na lamang ang mga kapatid ng Papa dahil ng tunay na hustisya ay nakamtan. Kaya ko po nasabi rin ito na hindi na po kami naghanap sa korte dahil po nung pagkalibing ng Papa, nagtry po kami pumunta sa Campo Crame. Pero pag uwi namin, may nag-text, magpapatulong pa ba daw sa mga pulis? Anong gusto? Ubusan ng lahi. Nananakot. Kaya po kami, ipinagpasa Diyos na lamang. At salamat sa Diyos, dumating sa tamang panahon ang hustisya. After the exposure, Father Dale, tunuturing naming tatay ng mga seminarista at pinoproseso kami itong panahon ng encounter. Sa aming pagpoproseso, natatandaan ko ang sinabi sa akin ni Tatay Dale. Anak, sa kinadami-daming ninyong seminarista na pwede niyang makausap, bakit ikaw pa? Sa aking pagdinilay, justice has been served in God's perfect time. Payapa na ang lahat. Panahon na ang pumawi ng galit na aming nararamdaman. At bilang isang pamilya, ang tangi naming nagawa na lamang ay ang magpasalamat sa Diyos. With this experience, I can really say that God works in mysterious ways. Ginamit niya ang mga pangyayaring sa ating buhay para patunayang mahal na mahal niya tayo. Masasabi ko din na ang karanasan kong ito ang ginamit ng Diyos para ako'y kanyang tawagin upang kanyang maging lingkod. Ang pagkamatay ng Papa ay masasabi kong blessing din in disguise. Dahil kung hindi ito nangyari, marahil hindi ko napagtanto o makikita ang bukasyong inihanda sa akin ng Panginoon. Dahil nung nakaburol ang Papa, halos araw-araw, 2-3 misa ang nagaganap sa bahay. At nung siya ililibing, 14 pari ang nakimisa para siya ipagdasal. Ang pagpapatawad ang susi para mas makita natin ng malinaw ang kalooban ng Panginoon. Tunay nga ang pagsunod sa ating Panginoon ay hindi madali. Dahil ang daan na ating lalakbayin ay daan ng krus. Kaya nga, baon-baon ko ang isa sa mga huling nasambit ng Papa sa aming magkakapatid nung siya'y nabubuhay. Maging handa kayo sa mga mangyayari. At sa paglalapat sa realidad ng buhay, kahit tila baga trahedya ang pangyayari at hindi kami naging handa in a positive way, maging handa kayo sa mangyayari sapagkat greater things are yet to come. Greater things are still to be done. In summary, I have 3 realizations wherein we can respond to God's loving embrace through forgiveness and vocation. Gamitin po natin ang salitang yakap din. Kabilang ng salita, hug. Humility. Kababaan ng loob. O Diyos, ating sambitin. O Diyos, ako'y walang-wala. Sa iyo ako lubos na nagtitiwala. With this, we acknowledge someone who is superior to us. And He is God who loves us very much. Sa ating buhay, napakahalaga po ng kababaan ng loob. At sa pagpapatawad at sa bokasyon natin sa buhay. Understanding, letter U. Pwedeng sabihin Tagalog, intindi, pero mas maganda po ang unawa. Una ang awa. Nauna ang awa at pagmamahal ng Diyos na binibigay sa atin. Kaya ganun din dapat tayo. Tayo unang magbigay ng awa, pag-intindi sa ating kapwa. At letter G, generosity. Nag-uumapaw ang pagpapala ng Diyos. Kaya dapat natin itong pahalagahan. Tiwala ng Diyos sa atin. In return, ganun din dapat tayo sa Kanya. Ibigay natin ng buong buo ang ating sarili. Hindi kulang, kundi buong-buong nating pagkatao, ialay natin sa Diyos. Para tunay na pagmamahal ay ating maisabuhay. Muli po, maraming salamat po. God bless po. Happy Father's Day po sa lahat ng mga ama. At gayon din po sa mga kaparian na tumatayong ama sa lahat. God bless po.
Thank you very much, Reverend Mikhail. For our 4th sharer, he is the International Marketing Manager of EWTN. From Makati City, Mr. Edwin Lopez with the theme Fatherhood in an Online Environment.
I would like to thank Archbishop Garcera for having considered me to handle this topic on discernment, fatherhood in an online environment. Malalim ang paksang ito, nangangailangan din ng mahabang oras. I am certain that there are readier, more willing, and more able fathers out there who can better handle the topic. There is a saying that goes, nemo dat quod non habet. I cannot give what I do not have. So what I can do is share with you my struggles as well as triumphs as a father. Having been married for 44 years to the same woman, blessed with 5 children, and gifted with 10 grandchildren. At the end of this discussion, you're free to pick up those that may be useful to you. Insights, experiences, reflections that may be applicable to your particular situation. So what I'd like to do, given this short period of time, is to focus on what can I, as a father, do in order to help my children form faithful, dependable, moral compass. Because at the end of the day, I will no longer be around to guide them. In what ways can I help them discern right from wrong? I'm not talking about everyday decisions such as kung anong damit ang bibilin, what kind of cars to invest into, houses, real estates to invest into. I'm not talking about that, and I will not deal with that. I'd like to focus on how can I, as a father, help my children form moral compass, the kind that's faithful to the teachings of the church, the kind that's dependable, that would help them develop the ability to discern right from wrong when moral challenges come. Especially in today's online environment when homeschooling has become the norm. When our children have access to online content 24/7, it's scary because media has become the surrogate parent. It's pervasive. Just to give you an example, Pornhub, a pornography site, is a $95 billion industry compared to Netflix's $11 billion. That's how pervasive it is today. What can I do as a father? Meron akong isang kaibigan. One time lumapit siya sa akin. In fact, kumpare ko to. Sabi niya sa akin, Dwayne, pinatawag ako ng principal doon sa eskwelahan ng anak ko eh. Bakit? Nahuli daw yung anak kong naninigarilyo sa campus. So I was curious. So, anong sinabi mo sa anak mo? Sabi niya sa akin, ito nga, pinagsabihan ko. Sabi ko, sa susunod na manigarilyo ka, sisiguraduhin mong walang makakahuli sa'yo. And it dawned on me. Yun din ba ang tinuturo ko sa mga anak ko? That it is all right to do wrong, provided you are not caught. Ganun ba yun? Meron din akong isang kakilala, pinatawag niya ako sa opisina niya dahil chairman siya ng isang forwarding company. Isa lang ang anak na babae. And nakita ko, he was distraught. No? He looked worried. He was there but not there. Di tinanong ko, anong naging problema? Sabi niya, pare, buntis ang anak ko eh. Abay, sabi ko, di magandang balita. Sabi niya, paano gagandang balita? Second year college pa lang to. Babae yung anak ko, pare. Nabuntis. Hindi naman kasal ito. Pinalaki namin ng maayos itong batang ito. Catholic school nga nag-aaral eh. Sabi ko, alam na ba ng misis mo? Alam na, pare. Sabi ko, sige, samahan kita. Pumunta kami sa bahay. Nandun pa lang kami sa garahe. Nadidinig ko na yung misis. Galit na galit. Ang daming sinasabi. Pagpasok namin doon sa bahay, nakaupo yung bata. Yung anak nilang dalaga na second year college na nabuntis. So, ang daming sinasabi ng nanay, no? Inalagaan ka pa naman namin. Catholic school ka pa naman nag-aral. Hindi mo ba pinakinggan kung ano tinuturo namin sa'yo? Nakita ko yung kakilala ko na nagpipigil. No? Mamya, nagsalita na. Inilabas na ang galit. Sabi niya doon sa bata, hindi mo na lang inalala ang aking reputasyon. It also dawned on me na ang ating choices ba depende sa reputasyon? What if we were to choose what is right, pero nagkataon yung tamang gagawin natin ay makakaapekto sa ating reputasyon? Are we simply gonna do something because the chances of getting caught is nil? Kahit mali. Ano ba ang batayan ng tama o mali? And I feel so blessed, ako mismo as a Catholic father, who has encountered so many struggles and failures and wrong choices, admittedly. I feel so blessed na mayroong simbahan. Simbahan na nagbibigay ng batayan kung ano ang tama o mali. Simbahan na nagbibigay ng moral compass. In fact, nung binalikan ko yung Catechism of the Catholic Church, sabi ko, ito yun. Ito dapat ang itinuturo ng amang kagaya ko sa aking mga anak, sa aking mga apo. Yung AIC, Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1750. The objective act, the subjective intention, and the circumstance. Na dapat tama yung objective act, tama yung subjective intention, tama yung circumstance upang malaman natin sa konsensya natin na hinuhubog din. At konsensya na sinasabing konsensya na kung ano pakiramdam mo. Hindi pwede dahil chances are mali ang pakiramdam ko at hindi pwedeng sumunod ang konsensya ko sa pakiramdam ko lamang. Dahil kadalasan ang tamang gagawin, ang tamang moral choice ay salungat sa masarap na pakiramdam. At tinuro nga ng simbahan sa Catechism of the Catholic Church 1750, kung mali ang isa, kung mali ang objective act, kahit tama yung intention, tama yung circumstance, mali ang pagpapasya. Kailangan tama yung tatlo upang tama ang pagpapasya. Kaya binalikan ko ang buhay ko. Nahubog ko ba ang mga anak ko sa ganyang paraan? O intensyon lamang? And I've heard many parents say this, basta tama intensyon mo. Which is very wrong. Dahil si Hitler, sincere naman si Hitler. Pero ilan ang pinapatay ni Hitler? Si Pol Pot ng Cambodia. Sincere naman siya. Pero ilan ang pinapatay niya? Ilang bata ang nai-abort dahil sabi ng magulang, hindi pa naman dapat ito maging ina dahil ito'y teenager pa lang. Therefore, paabot. It personally happened to me. And I'm so thankful to my mother who guided me. I was 17 years old when my wife, my girlfriend then, got pregnant. Naalala ko nung sinabi ko to sa nanay ko. And she was crying. She was crying. It wasn't good news, no? That time. Sabi niya, haharapin natin yan. Hindi natin tatakbuhan yan. Dahil kung pababayaan kitang takbuhan mo yan, sabi niya, habang buhay, yung taong makikita mo sa harap ng salamin, sabi niya, na ako yun, no? Ay uusigin ka. At sasabihin niya sa'yo, isa kang duwag. Duwag. Nag-iiyakan kami. Umiiyak siya. Pero sabi niya, haharapin natin bilang pamilya ito. I was 17. Wala akong trabaho. Hindi pa ako tapos ng pag-aaral. Patay na ang tatay ko. It was very dark. It was very dark. But my mom's words during that time gave me that moral courage to face the consequences of my actions. Binigyan niya ako ng tinatawag na adaptive competence. Hindi niya sinolve ang problema ko. Hinayaan niyang ako ang mag-solve ng problema ko. Hinayaan niyang ako ang humarap sa problema ko. But she was there. And it was very tempting to run away. It was very tempting to quit. In fact, a relative came to me and said, palaglag natin ang bata. Yan ang kondisyon ko. Dadaling kita sa Amerika. Doon kita pag-aaralin. Ako magtutusto sa iyo. On one condition, palaglag ang bata. Pero kahit sa murang edad, Andun talaga yung natural law, no? Na hindi tama. A problem cannot be solved by creating another problem. So kami, nung asawa ko, sabi namin, hindi tama yun. Mahirap itong tatahakin natin. Pero papanindigan natin ito. Aasa tayo na kapag pinanindigan natin ang buhay, paninindigan tayo ng Diyos. Sinabi ko yan sa confessor ko during that time. Siya mismo ang nagsabi sa akin, panindigan mo ang buhay, paninindigan ka ng Diyos. Sabi ko, Father, wala akong trabaho, wala pa akong college degree. Hindi ko kayang tustusan to. Wala naman akong tatay. Panindigan mo ang buhay, paninindigan ka ng Diyos. And looking back, I can just fall down on my knees and thank God every night. It's been 44 years now. My eldest is 44. She now lives in the States. I now have American grandchildren. My second is 42. Then I have a girl, 38 and 35 and then 21. What a blessing. What a grace. And I can just be thankful to the Catholic Church for having given us that moral compass. It's not easy because it requires courage to fight for what is right. But how can we fight? How can I fight for what is right when I don't know what is right? When I don't know what is morally right? How can my children fight for what is right when it's media that tells them what is right? Kaya ang ganda. Objective act, subjective intention, and circumstance. Kailangan tama lahat upang maging tama ang pagpapasya. Kaya ang katanungan ko nga ngayon, if I go today, if the Lord takes me today, nabigyan ko ba ng moral compass ang mga mahal ko sa buhay? A guide, a clear guide that will help them choose what is right from wrong. Because my main objective is to bring them to heaven. What is success? Success is not about accumulating wealth. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? My aim as a father, as a leader, as a mentor to my children, my family, my dear ones, is to bring each one of them to heaven. And how? By helping them discern right from wrong. Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1750. That if the objective act is wrong, mali na. Tama man ang objective act, mali ang subjective intention, mali pa rin. Kung tama man ang objective act, tama ang subjective intention, mali ang circumstance, mali pa rin. Pero alam natin na hindi naman tayo nabubuhay sa isang academic world, no? In a theoretical world. Especially when you live in a society where it's so difficult to be good. When it's so difficult to do what is right. When you're even persecuted to do what is right. And our children probably are experiencing that because they're being persecuted for fighting for what is right. Everyday life sa Pilipinas. Pag right turn mo, nahuli ka. And you happen to be a taxi driver. May traffic enforcer palang nagtatago. Lisensya. Kaya ka na lisensya. Alam mo namang no right turn dyan kapag nakapula ang signal. Opo. Tinikitan. Alam mo ba na 7 days to bago mo matubos? At magbabayad ka pa ng 500. Abay, parang nagpapadinig. And you're just a hapless taxi driver na yung kita ngayong araw na to ay pagkain ng aking 5 anak. na pag binigay ko yung lisensya ko sa kanya, 7 days, walang kakainin ang aking pamilya. Then at the end of the day, after 7 days, tsaka ko lang makukuha ang aking lisensya. Bayad pa ako ng 500. Boss, baka naman, ito lang po ang pinagkakakitaan ko. Hindi po ako pwedeng walang trabaho, walang pasada ng 7 araw. Hindi naman pwedeng ganyan. Paano naman ako? Paano si Eddie? Eddie daw, no? Eddie ako, paano? What are your choices as a taxi driver? What are your choices? Knowing clearly, pag naglagay ako dito, 200, nabawasan ang kita ko today, pero at least makakabiyahe ko, makakapasada ko, mapapakain ko pamilya ko. Or, sige po, tikitan nyo na ako. But I go home and tell my wife, for 7 days, wala tayong kakainin. At pahiram ng 500 dahil pag dating ng 7 araw, kailangan kong kunin ang lisensya ko. What are my choices? Especially, kung alam kong pwede naman ang right turn doon. Nagkataon na mukhang may nagbaliktad lang nung sign. Dahil dati na akong nagdadaan doon. What are my choices? What I'm saying is, it takes a lot of discernment in order to make the right moral choices in any given situation. I cannot solve the problems of my children, and I will not. I will refuse to drink the medicine that they themselves need to drink. Dahil kahit inumin ko yung gamot na para sa kanila, hindi sila gagaling. And as a father, I think I have realized that in so many ways, na I cannot solve the problem for themselves. Otherwise, nanakawan ko sila ng kakayahan humarap ng sarili nilang problema. And one day, I will not be around. So aside from helping them form a moral compass, the other thing, and which I consider more important, is to remain open to grace, to have an active Christian life. I just found a survey that says 93% of children embrace their faith when they see their fathers embrace the faith. 93%. Ang laki, no? Ibig sabihin yun ang impact ng ehemplo. And how can we make sure that we remain rooted to God's will? How can we be sure that we're providing them the right moral compass? And that is to stay in a state of grace. Meron akong ginawang acronym dyan which we follow in the family. CARES. No? C, confession, regular confession. I know it's challenging today because of the pandemic, but as much as possible, pag may pagkakataon, go to confession. Because confession is more powerful than exorcism. Exorcism is a sacramental. Confession is a sacrament. A, adoration. Sabi nga ni Don Bosco, if you want more graces, visit the Blessed Sacrament often. More visits, more graces. Less visits, less graces. R, rosary. Si Don Bosco rin na nagsabi, if you want to see miracles, pray the rosary. And as a father, I lead the family rosary every day. It's difficult. It's difficult. But when they see me praying the rosary, they pray the rosary too. E, Eucharist. Eucharist. Kung pwede, halos patapos na naman ang pandemic. Let's encourage everyone. In my family, I encourage everyone to go to Mass every day. Hindi virtual, ha? Real Mass. And receive the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. Siya mismo nagsabi, di ba? Before the ascension. All power of heaven and earth have been given to me. All. Lahat. He permits all. Even tragedies. He permits all. S, Scripture. The Word of God cares. If we practice cares every day, discernment will become a natural byproduct. As an effect, our children will be able to develop a faithful, solid Christian moral compass that will help them discern right from wrong when facing moral challenges. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwin Lopez. This time around, let's hear a reflection from the President of Courage Philippines for the theme Family Accompaniment, Fatherhood, and an LGBT Person's Journey. Let's hear from Mr. Edwin Valles.
A blessed day. Thank you for attending this conference on fatherhood. I'm Edwin Valles, the President of Courage Philippines, the Catholic apostolate for persons with same-sex attraction and gender identity concerns, or commonly known as LGBT persons. The topic that I was assigned to talk about is about family accompaniment, specifically the role of fatherhood in the journeys of LGBT persons. You know, in the Courage Apostolate, we are able to listen to or accompany all our brothers and sisters in the LGBT. So, and in Courage, we provide a safe space for them to be able to openly talk about their struggles, their confusion, and whatever they're going through. And while listening to all the experiences of the Courage brothers and sisters, what we realize or what we hear are some form of hurt or woundedness from their own family setup, so from their own family experience. And quite often as well, it is a type of father woundedness. So sometimes, sadly, their experiences with their own fathers were negatively impacted who they are. So if maybe an attempt to group together the common experiences, I can cite three major ones. The first common experience is that of an absentee father. So these are the Courage members who for one reason or another were not able to fully and entirely experience the presence of their father. So first, of course, one case will be that of an OFW. So obviously the father is not here and working overseas, and the Courage member will be spending most of their childhood with their mother and often than not with other female members in the household. So generally these Courage members have a craving or a yearning for a fatherly masculine affection and affirmation that they were not able to fully realize because of the fact that their fathers were absent while they were growing up. A second common experience is that of a severe father. So these are the experiences of Courage members wherein their fathers were strict disciplinarian, or very rigid, sometimes emotionally unavailable, and sometimes would even physically beat up their children. So these Courage members will have a tendency to have a traumatic view or a painful view of masculinity. But in some mysterious way, this painful traumatic experience about masculinity intrigues them, or somehow it develops in them this erotic fantasy. So and then third, a common experience will be that of passive fathers. So these are all these are households or families where the mother is the overbearing figure in the family, so, and the mother will be eclipsing the role of the father in terms of household leadership, so in my own personal experience, this will be the third one. The passive father will be my own experience. So in my own household, it is my mother. It was my mother who was more driven, more ambitious. She had a more successful career. She had more income. Therefore, she would be making a lot of the financial decisions in the family. And my father, relative to my mother, was more silent and passive. So and I really can't blame my mother because uh, her experience with her own childhood was that her father left them for another family. And because she was the elder of two children, she had no choice but to be driven, to be ambitious, because otherwise they would not have survived. So, and going back to my father, so despite the fact that maybe relative to my father was a passive presence in my own family. I do believe that my father was a salient or an important figure in my life. So I remember when I was a child, he would dote on me. So he would sing me lullabies and stay with me in bed, so, and read me bedtime stories complete with sound effects, so until he puts me to sleep, so. And then when I grew up, so when I went to school, I went to an all boys Catholic school, and I grew up to be a flamboyant gay boy. And when I was in high school, the prefect of discipline in that school decided to summon our parents, so me and my gay barkada. The prefect of discipline decided to summon our parents to be able to maybe advise on how to deal with us, diba, in our being gay. So my father courageously showed up, and listened to the advice of the prefect of discipline. So there. And then during my adult life, so most of my adult life, I spent it actively pursuing the gay lifestyle. So I was into promiscuous sex, and also I was into romantic relationships with the same sex, so with other males. So while I was very active in the gay lifestyle for most of my adult life, my father was like an anchor to me. So he grounded me uh, in terms of my faith, and his presence also grounded me in family life. So even if I had a lot of gay friends, I would still go back to family. So that, because that was my rootedness. So, and when by God's grace, so just before my 41st birthday, God led me to the conversion journey through the Courage Apostolate. When I reflect on that experience, I see that the saliency of my father in my life beautifully emerged. So, I guess the foremost example of that was my decision to fully dedicate myself to the Courage ministry and apostolate. So when I first joined in Courage, something deep inside me leapt for joy. So I felt that God finally answered my lifelong prayer of being delivered from homosexuality. And as I kept on attending the Courage meeting, I felt that I wanted to fully and totally dedicate myself to this ministry. So, but the problem was, I was a breadwinner in my family during the time. So even up to now. So there's the secular side of things that that I also have to take care of. So I really was discerning for several months, and what maybe further complicated things was things become really crazy in my corporate job at the time, and so there were a lot of conflicts when it comes to schedule between work and between doing Courage ministry work. So because of the crazy work load that I had, I still even had to work during weekends when we would do Courage meetings. So I really prayed hard on it. I really discerned it. And after about 6 months of discerning and asking God for direction or enlightenment in this regard, one Sunday came that I felt that the signs were very clear from the Lord that I should trust Him and make this leap of faith to leave my corporate life behind and to fully dedicate myself to the Courage Ministry. And that on that Sunday, I decided to be open to my parents about it. I told them I really have plans of resigning already because things have gotten crazy in work. No? So Monday came. I was not able to talk to my boss. Tuesday, was not able to talk to my boss. But on Wednesday, when I had a schedule to sit down with my boss and hand in my resignation, so while preparing for work at breakfast, suddenly, spontaneously, my father approached me and he told me, Edwin, whatever your decision is, please be assured that your mother and I fully support you. So I felt, I don't know, I felt affirmed with such loving words from my father. And the next thing that he did was he put both of his hands into my head and blessed me. So I felt, in the Bible, the the importance of the father's blessing. No? So, and because my father spontaneously gave his blessing to me, I knew that this is where really God wanted me to go. Diba? So this is where God really wanted me to go. So what were the things about the saliency of my father in my life uh, uh, that helped me in my courage journey? Firstly, among other things, it was very easy for me to grasp the idea of a merciful God, which is very important for LGBT accompaniment. So, and I do not have to siguro draw from imagination, because my first-hand experience of the fatherhood or the parenting style of my father was that he was himself approachable as much as he is merciful. So it was very easy for me to grasp the idea of a merciful father. Second, in an outreach activity that we did for LGBT teenagers somewhere in Antipolo, so after some time of doing that, a nun commented to me that he observed that I was very fatherly to these LGBT teenagers. So that comment of that madre surprised me because I thought I was just being friendly and being present for them. But then when I reflected on that, I realized that the way I approached these LGBT teenagers were basically similar to the parenting style of my father. And then thirdly, in prayer and reflecting on my broken masculinity because of my same-sex attraction, I initially thought that it was because I never had positive male role models in my life, nor I had a good bonding with male friends. But in prayer, God made me realize that all throughout my life, He is sending me such good role models and friends, and the foremost of whom is my father. And so, based on my own personal experience, that brief sharing and the experiences of my brothers and sisters in the Courage Apostolate, I can say that the role of fatherhood in family accompaniment of LGBT persons can be summarized in the word saliency. The father has to be an important figure in the life of an LGBT person, whether they're actively pursuing the lifestyle or not. So I hope no matter how briefly I was able to help give pointers on the role of fatherhood in the journeys of LGBT persons. Here's praying that every LGBT person would be saying the words of Jesus Christ, describing how salient his own father was to him. From John chapter 14, verse 11, Jesus said, "Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me." Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwin Valles. This time, let's hear, of course, the last but definitely not the least speakers. He is a member of the Couples for Christ And from Batangas City, he will be reflecting on the theme, Family in the Midst of COVID Crisis. Let's hear from Mr. Victor Alvarez.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. It has been more than a year that the whole world experienced the biggest crisis in our lifetime, the pandemic brought about by COVID-19. Many people got sick and died. The economy suffered great loss, and the faith of people were tested. But we all know that God is bigger than COVID. He is God who loves us unconditionally. The wonders of God cannot be undone. His love and faithfulness remain. As a father of 7 children, I can proudly say that God is with us in ups and downs. Donna and I were blessed for having happy, healthy, and striving to be holy family. It was in November last year, 2020, when we experienced the biggest crisis in our family. Despite observing proper health protocols, wearing face masks and face shield every time I go out our home for work and other activities, I was infected by COVID-19. I experienced symptoms like flu. We later found out, after undergoing swab tests, that all members of our family, my wife Donna, and the 5 children were positive of the virus. Isang napakalaking hamon po ang aming naging karanasan. Takot, pag-aalala, sa maaaring maging epekto nito sa aming pamilya, lalo't higit kung magkaroon ng mga malalalang sintomas. Tunay pong pangamba at cramming, name it. Yun po ang aming mga naranasan. Yun po ang aming mga pinagdaanan. As a father who normally is a protector and provider of the family, I was really affected. In the first few days of our journey, I experienced fear, anxiety, stress that resulted into sleepless nights and deep worries. It was during this moment when the Lord speaks to me. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Messages of encouragement, prayers, and support for our everyday needs keep coming from our friends, relatives, brethren in our ministry, and the community of CFC, and even our priest friends, and our Archbishop Gilbert, who assured us of their support and love. The Lord guided me to overcome all these negative thoughts. I surrendered everything to Him and began to realize the positive side of this pandemic. We deepen our faith to God and allow us to experience a longer prayer time. Our relationship with our family continued to grow. And like Saint Joseph, I learned to look beyond myself. The helping hands of the people around us made me realize the value of helping our brethren and motivated me to find ways to help people in need. Our faith to God and the unceasing prayers turned this crisis into Christ. After a few days in isolation facility, we again undergo the swab test. And thanks be to God, all of us were declared negative of the virus. This is truly an amazing gift from the Lord. How are I now as a healed person and a family? The experiences and the learnings brought about by this pandemic taught me on how to claim God's promise of salvation, healing, and hope, such as the following: turning anger, pride, and grumbling into patience, compassion, and love. Untie and let go. Like Saint Joseph, don't be too dependent on our ability and too attached to ourselves. Yes, brethren, yes, friends. I realize that I cannot do it alone. I realize that God is there, up there, and we really have to ask for His mercy and for His guidance. Hayaan natin kumilos ang Diyos sa ating buhay. At ikatlo, patuloy na maglingkod sa Kanya sa anumang paraan sa kabila ng pagsubok. Maglingkod. Yun nga po ang aking tanong. Paano nga po ako makakapaglingkod nang naaayon dun sa nais ng Panginoon Diyos? Marami nga pong paraan. Subalit, I will take the ways how Saint Joseph served and how Saint Joseph silently worked for the protection of his family, of our Mother Mary, and our Lord Jesus Christ. Number 1 is solitude. Not turning away from God. Making time to be with the Lord. Making time to listen to Him. Secondly, sacrifice. Not just depriving ourselves, but doing something good and offering it for a greater cause. Yun nga po yung sinasabing, wala naman po akong ginagawang masama sa kapwa. Pero ang tanong, meron ka bang ginagawang mabuti sa kanila? Hindi lamang po simpleng wala kang ginagawang masama sa iyong kapwa. Subalit ang natutunan po natin, we really have to do something good for a greater cause to our brethren. Sharing, pagbibigay ng bukal sa loob sa lahat. Dahil nakita po namin kung gaano kahalaga yung ikaw ay makatanggap sa panahon na ikaw ay nagigipit. Ikaw ay makatanggap ng mga bagay, ng mga pagkain na hindi ka naman at wala kang paraan na makabili sapagkat ikaw ay naka-quarantine. So, napakahalaga po na maging sensitive sa pangangailangan ng iba. Kaya nga po, totoo na naririyan po ang Panginoon. At alam nyo, brothers and sisters, before I end with this sharing, I just would like to add to these miracles that the Lord have given and have really shown to us. Just recently po, napatunayan ko na ang Diyos ay mabuti at ang Diyos ay totoong mas malaki kaysa sa COVID. Thanks be to God that this experience of being a COVID survivor makes us stronger in facing the challenges in life. Kagaya nga po na nabanggit ko, itong mga nakaraang linggo, my third child, Bien Joseph, called us. He's actually now staying and studying and doing trainings in the Philippine Merchant Marine Academy, taking up marine engineering. They were confined in the academy for almost 11 months. And I could say that they were all taken care of the staff and the officers of Philippine Merchant Marine Academy. Unfortunately, there were 4 cadets who were tested positive of COVID. He told us that after mass testing was conducted, he was also included in those infected by the virus. Another challenge to us. But this time, we just stay on focus. Pray and make some necessary communication in the academy. We sent him foods through our friends near the area in Zambales. He is now on his way to Corobiri. God is really good. God is really a great healer, a provider, and as I have said earlier, He is bigger than COVID-19. I will respond, my friends, as for me and my family, we will continue to serve the Lord. Praise be to God.
Thank you very much, Mr. Victor Alvarez. On behalf of this event's organizers and committee, we would like to express our sincerest gratitude to all our speakers for taking their time to share their wonderful experiences with us. Also, to all the fathers who tuned in with us via Facebook Live, thank you very much, and we hope you all had a wonderful time. Certain announcements and reminders for our third day celebration tomorrow. At 11 a.m. there will be an online Eucharistic celebration to be presided by Most Reverend Gilbert Garcera, DD. And at 1 p.m. we are encouraging everyone to participate in our prepared online games and raffle for a chance to win a replica of the miraculous image of Saint Joseph. Once again, on behalf of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Episcopal Commission on Family and Life, headed by His Excellency, Most Reverend Gilbert Garcera, D.D., and the Ad Hoc Committee for the Year of Saint Joseph of the Archdiocese of Lipa, headed by Reverend Father Edwin V. Tolentino, S.J., together with his Secretariat, thank you very much, enjoy the rest of the day, and Happy Father's Day.
Sa malawak na plano ng Diyos, Kanyang pinilit, hinirang na lubos, usilap na puso, Kanyang pinagpala, upang maging ama ng Mesiya. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, tabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kalikasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang iyong pagiging Ama, O San Jose. Kay laki ng iyong ginampanan sa kwento ng ating kaligtasan, ngunit buhay niya'y nanatili sa karimlan at kababaan. O San Jose, turuan mo kaming maglingkod. O San Jose, tabay ka sa aming pagsunod sa kalooban ng Ama, sa kalikasan ng lahat, binabanal ng may likha. Ang San Jose,